Right, back to part 2 of doodling. These ones we did earlier are still drying. These are ones I did earlier that are now completely dry. There's two ways you can approach these. You can either put more colour on now, or you can go in with some line. So let's start with some lines. I think what I'm going to do on some of them is go in with a finer pen. Let's start here. This really is just playtime. It doesn't matter what you do. You're just seeing a line and doing another line that might go with it. You can do as much or as little as you like. Sometimes it can help doing this while you're talking to somebody, and then you're not too worried about where your hand's going and you'll do it more instinctively. So there's no wrong way to do it, so it completely takes the pressure off. We're breaking up the shape into smaller shapes. Seeing what belongs where. Playing with spaces, breaking them into smaller spaces. You can spend as much or as little time on this as you like. Some spaces it's nice to leave completely empty perhaps. That kind of thing. You can do a whole page of these and then you might like 2 out of a dozen, and that's brilliant. That'll do for that. Then what I can do, once I've drawn some more lines, is get the brush out again and add more colour. Staying with the same types of colour, if you start putting too many different colours on top, it'll end up as mush. So this is kind of yellow and blue themed, so I'm going to stick to my yellows and blues. You can change your yellows and your blues, but stick to the same basic shades. And then I can start to reinforce some of these spaces. Again, I'm going to start responding to the lines, but overlap them now. Perhaps do 2 spaces together or a big area together. You're still not just colouring in, you're still actually playing, leaving spaces, mucking about with the shapes. Of course, being watercolours and being transparent, if I put a yellow on top of a green, I'll get a nice light green. So you start to get a little bit of depth in there, and if I can change colours as I go around, look, I can change that to a darker green by adding more blue. It really helps you build up a reference in your head for how to mix all the colours you need in nature. Some nice deep colours down there. Let's put some more strong blues in there. Oops, too much, too much. Alright, let's put in there. That's quite nice. Don't worry about going over the edges. How is it that we've lived a whole life and we still have memories of teachers screaming at us, "What's that colour over the edges?" Let's do that. Ooh, yeah, that's interesting. While it's still wet, you can pull the colours together while they're still wet to get interesting results like that. That's quite nice. Now I'm going to leave that again, because if I keep on and keep on, it's all going to turn to mush. So let's leave that one alone. Let's go on to another one. Let's do something with this. Now I've got some nice strong reds there. Let's see my palette all right. My technology is very, very simple, but I hope it's enough. Right, let's go over some of these orangey bits. You're just playing. You learn so much through play. Ask any 10-year-old. That's quite nice. Let's get some more earthy yellows in there. Pull them into there and see what happens. Now let's go quite dark at the bottom. There's some nice strong indigos. Again, you don't know where these are going, you don't know where they'll end up. You might like them, you might not. It doesn't actually matter. You can just Just draw more lines with your brush if you want to. Play around. That's enough for that. Again, if I keep going, I'll start to muddy it up. And what I quite like to do is still leave some little white spaces. So at this stage, you've got places where there's no paint at all, places where there's one layer, places where there's 2 layers, places where there's 3 layers. On this one, I didn't do any more lines. I can do those later when it's dry. Don't ever put your pens in areas of wet paint, or they really will get pretty mucky. Which one shall I do next? Let's do something with that one. I know what, let's put some more lines on that one. I haven't done that for a while. Let's go back in with the Sharpie and in with the quite strong one. There's no reason not to colour patches in black, and then you get some nice contrast between the light translucent watercolour areas and the heavy dark bits. Just getting a bit African, this one. I'm rushing these a bit just to show you, but it's actually quite nice to do these slowly. It's very relaxing, almost meditative, very good for you, because it completely takes the pressure off having to have a result. It's just for the process. You will get results, but that's a bonus. Even the ones you don't want to do anything with, you can chop them up and make them into gift tags. We just like patches of colour. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I don't mind. It's okay. Let's put Bob there. And what can sometimes happen, and you'll get a bit of a piece that you quite like and bits that you don't like, but you'll remember, your visual and your hand memory will remember those, and they'll include it later, and then gradually you'll get a kind of catalogue of marks that you make and colours and patterns and shapes that you quite like, and when you put them all together you'll get something quite stunning. Put these vertical lines, that can be quite nice. Don't like that bit now, let's colour it in. Don't be afraid to try. Nothing happens if it goes wrong. There won't be a knock on your door. You won't be arrested for misusing a piece of paper. Quite like that contrast of black bits and white bits, that's quite nice. Okay, now at this stage I can put some more paint on, why not? I'm going down a brush size once I get into smaller detail. That's a size 3. The first bit I was using a size 6 Aquafine Sable. Nice brushes, not very expensive. Right, let's deepen up some of these reds. Let's make them into a bit purple. Oh, some nice purpley things going on there. Take that away. If you've got lots of dark bits, it's quite useful to have quite a few light bits to go with them. You can really get the feel of how watercolour works in layers and starts to build layers of veils of colour almost. If it's all gone horribly wrong and you've got a whole area that you don't like and it's gone a bit in there, you can just get the tissue and get it off. It's gone a bit heavy there, that's better. Not sure where this one's going, doesn't matter. Might put a bit of yellow in up there. Let's just put a patch of yellow in there and see what happens. Alright, and some there. Yeah, could be something interesting. So that's the way we're going. I know you can keep adding, and in the end you can end up with some quite interesting things that look like that. You can play with forms like trees, boats, fish, leaves, play with different natural shapes, and just keep experimenting and build up your kind of fluid softness of line and ease of working. And eventually you can take these techniques into landscapes and still life. So that's enough for now, but there's a lot more we can do with these, and I'll do some more of this if that's helpful. And eventually I'll get the technology better. Thank you.